Okay, so today I'm going to be showing you quite likely one of the best microcomputer emulators out there to download. It's won awards, and this is ZEsarUX. Now, not only does this focus on ZX Spectrum computers, but it's also a very easy way into ZX Spectrum Next 2. We can download games using the interface itself. We can switch between machines such as Amstrad to Jupiter Ace to various different Sinclair machines. Trust me, this is one awesome emulator, and I had to stop at some point during the recording of this video because there simply is so much of this emulator that it's not as straightforward as most emulators are. There's a lot to this emulator, so if you want the ultimate ZX Spectrum emulator and a very good setup guide which I put together for you to the best of my abilities, check this one out. Okay, before I start today's setup guide for this very awesome emulator which I've discovered recently, if you like what you see today, hit notifications, subscribe and like so you don't miss upcoming retro emulation content. It also helps my channel out a great deal, plus it gets you up-to-date retro emulation content. So we're looking at perhaps one of the best ZX Spectrum emulators, and actually multi-emulators for mainly microcomputers around. So what we're going to do first is actually download this. Now I'm going to leave the link in my description for this, and under the information on this GitHub it's going to tell you what this does. So it mainly caters for ZX Spectrum based computers, but it also does other features in the background such as emulating obscure computers, forgotten computers such as the Jupiter Ace, Sam Coupe and various other things. And one of the really awesome features with this emulator is giving us the ability to actually emulate the ZX Spectrum Next. So if we just download this, and I'm going to download the version at the bottom, which is the third up from the bottom, and this is for Windows. If I just download this zip, we're going to download a zip archive. What I'm going to do is just extract this archive onto my desktop. So once that's been extracted, if we just go inside of that folder, we're going to find an executable where we can actually open up the program itself, and it's located near the bottom somewhere. And here it is. We're just going to right click on this file, which is the emulator itself. So right click on the .exe and show more options. And from show more options, we just go to send to desktop create shortcut. We can now access this emulator just by going to the shortcut on the desktop we just created and then just double left clicking on it. And here we go then. So right now, as you boot this up for the first time, it's not actually going to look like much, but trust me, this really is an awesome emulator. So on your first boot up, you're going to get a lot of information come up. You can either go to do not show it again just by using your cursor keys on your keyboard and pressing enter to disable and enable things. So I'm going to disable do not show again. Okay. And here we go then. So as standard, this will boot up by default for the ZX Spectrum 48K. Now what we can do here is press F5 on the keyboard, and by either pressing F5 or left clicking on any empty space, you're going to get this little menu come up, and this is where things can really get good with this emulator. So if we go to machine, you've got various different manufacturers here producing various different microcomputers from back in the day. We can actually select one of these. Now the one I'm going to suggest doing, as this is pretty much going to be a ZX Spectrum type of video, what I'm going to do is go to Sinclair Research, and just here, as we can see, we can emulate all these Sinclair Research computers. So we can even emulate the Sinclair QL. If I just left click on this one, and here we go. So we're into Sinclair QL. Again, if I left click or press F5 on my keyboard, we can change it again. So machine, and we're going to go for Amstrad. Now, for those not aware, Amstrad took over the Sinclair computer brand and pretty much generated their own versions of the ZX Spectrum plus their own Amstrad computers. So a very popular Amstrad computer was the CPC 464 with the built-in cassette drive. We just left click on this one. And there we go, we're ready. And another really interesting thing and a very easy way to get into ZX Spectrum Next is actually using this emulator. So again, machine, and for ZX Spectrum Next, if we go right to the bottom, I'm going to select FB Lab, so I can either press enter on this or press right on my cursor key. I'm going to select ZX Spectrum Next and press enter. Auto configure initial SD, I'm going to just select yes on this. And I'm going to select use included. Configure MMC settings, I'm going to press on yes. And just press enter on that part just there where the noise is, and from here just let this load up. And that's it, we're now into Next ZX operating system. Now if you're new to Sinclair ZX Spectrum Next, from here we can just press on spacebar and that's going to bring us into this. And let's take a look at what games comes with ZX Spectrum Next. So if I press enter to enter into browser, from here I can then go to the games folder and I can then go to next, and under next I've got all these ZX Spectrum Next games. So let's check out Night Night. If I just press enter on this and then enter on the .next demo, if I close down out of that and reboot the emulator again, it's going to take us straight into ZX Spectrum Next operating system, as you can see. So in order to change this again, all we need to do is just go to OK and just press F5 or left click on an empty space and simply just select a different machine. Now this time I'm going to go back to Sinclair Research and I'm going to select, say, ZX Spectrum plus 128K. And from here, we can actually make this into full screen if you wish, but I'm not going to do this, but I'm going to show you how to do it. Now, if we go back into the options menu, from here, if we just go down to say settings, and from settings, we can go down to general. From general, we can turn this into full screen, as it says at the top, just by pressing on enter on that one. And there we go, so we're in full screen, but like I say, I'm actually going to disable this for this video. But from this general settings option here, we got various different other video options to play with, such as no border on full screen, no footer on full screen. But like I said, I'm going to just disable the full screen mode for this video. If I press enter to exit out of full screen, and if I use my left cursor just to come out of here, so from here, what I'm going to do is just go down to ZX Desktop and I'm going to enable ZX Desktop. And this is going to bring another panel up on the side. I'm boosting about this because this really is excellent. It's probably one of the best emulators I've actually covered on my channel. If I just come out of here, press F5, if I just press escape to exit out of here. So really cool feature with this is that we actually got the ability to download games on the fly. So once we're in full screen mode, which I've had to enable for this part, at the top here, you're going to find a little Wi-Fi, almost like a little Wi-Fi symbol. If you left click on this one, we got Specky online browser, and we've even got ZX81 online browser. If we just go down to Specky online browser, left click on it, it's going to ask for a query. If we type in the name of a game just here, I'm going to randomly type in Dizzy. And if I press enter, it's then going to give us lots of games for Dizzy. So we got Wonderful Dizzy. If I just left click on Wonderful Dizzy, it's then going to download the Wonderful Dizzy game in tap format. If I left click on that, it's going to tell us where this is downloaded from. If we either go to do not show again and then press OK. And if I left click here, do you want to use this file? Yes. And there we go, we now have wonderful Dizzy. And you can also access that downloading option just by pressing F5 in a blank space just here. And if you go to Network, and again we can choose Speccy Online or even ZX81 Online Browser. We can go to Speccy Online Browser, and if we just backspace or delete Dizzy, this time I'm going to just randomly type in Silkworm. And press Enter. And there we go, so it's now found matches for the game Silkworm. The Silkworm I was actually had in mind, doesn't look like it's listed here. So if I just come out of there, Speccy Online, I'm actually going to type in Silkworm in one word. And here we go, this looks more like it. We've also got Swiv here, so let's go for Swiv, which was the sequel, I suppose, to Silkworm. And we got options here to download this in TZX format or TAP. I'm going to go for TAP. If I press on Enter, and I'm going to press Enter on Swiv, and just scroll down to .tap, which is the game itself. Press Enter, and here we go. It's now rebooting, and it's going to boot up this new game for us. Other things we can do once we got this expanded, so you've got the right hand panel just here. If you just right click on any area just here, ZX desktop settings, we can go down to background and we can actually change how this looks. So you've got this very awesome looking 80s wallpaper almost. We can also go down to this part just here and change different shades of color. Personally, I quite like that 80s look with the lines just there, but that's just me. We can also disable direct access buttons. If I press right or enter on this, that's going to take those away. And you also notice as I'm downloading games, they're actually going to start appearing just here on the desktop just here. Okay, other really cool features we can do with this emulator is actually use our own software on your computer or download your own software manually rather than using the emulator itself. And what I'm going to do is just download a new ZX Spectrum game just to test this. If I use Aliens Neoplasma, which is obviously on itch.io, I'll leave the link in my description. We got two versions of this game. If I just open the folder here, I'm going to use the ZX Spectrum 128K version and just take out the English version of this game. If I just drag that onto my desktop, and then go back into the emulator, I'm going to select machine and I'm going to actually select Amstrad model this time. And I'm going to use the ZX Spectrum Plus 2A. Now from here, if I want to manually load this game I've just downloaded, all I need to do is just left click, smart load, and then I need to locate where that game is stored. And obviously it's on my desktop just here and the file is named ANP. So if I just come out of here and go to my desktop, and here's my game AMP, left click, and there we go. So not only through this emulator do we have the ability to download games automatically as it were, but we can actually use external games outside of the emulator to play. Many of you is going to be asking, more than likely, how do we use controllers on this? So in order to use controllers through this emulator, we just need to open up this menu again, remember, by left clicking. If we go to settings from here, hardware, and at the top here, you're going to find joystick type. So you've got a selection there of types of joysticks you want to use. For ZX Spectrum fans, you'll likely select Kempston. And if you want to save games, you can actually do this as well through snapshots. So again, left click and go to snapshot. And if we go to save snapshot or quick save, it's now saved that part of the game. Now if we go to quick load, my snapshot I've just saved is actually just here, complete with a screenshot. And there we go, we then loaded that save. And if you want to very quickly load up your game, then just grab your file and drag it onto the emulator shortcut that we created earlier. Just drag it on. And there we have it. So we're instantly into the game, very simple. And if you get a little error come up, this disk is protected, just simply close this down and OK. Do not show again, OK. Now, at any point with this emulator, if you've done particular settings and you're a bit of a mess where you are with it, we can actually reset the settings just by doing this. If we left click again, and this time we're going to go to settings, and if we just check on advanced menu items, from here we can go to a configuration file, and then reset config file. And if I just press on this, need to exit, sure, yes. And it's now reset to default. So what we're going to do is press enter. And if we boot up the emulator again, all your settings will be back to normal. So here we go, we're back into the emulator as it was as we downloaded it. Now, some other things we can do with this emulator, and as you're probably aware at this point, we can do a lot of things with this emulator, so much so, I simply can't fit it into one video because we can do so much with this. Now, if you need any further support with this, because there's so much involved in this emulator, as you're probably aware of by now, I mean, there is a ridiculous amount this emulator can actually do. If we just right click on an empty space, go to help, left click on that, we got all the help features just here. So we got everything from installing to core statistics to background windows help, keyboard help. Now I'm going to set this up as a ZX81 machine. Again, if I right click machine, Sinclair research, and I'm going to select ZX81. Okay, so if I right click again, I'm also going to bring back the expansion, which adds on to the right hand side of it. So just remember to do that. What we need to do is go to settings, and we're going to go to ZX desktop and enable that. And I'm going to download a ZX81 game. Now, if you've got this in window mode and it's not in full screen mode, you won't see the Wi-Fi at the top. So in that case, just left click on it and just remember to go to network, ZX81 online browser, and initial letter. So let's just go for D. And we've now got various games for the letter of D up here. So let's just randomly select one of these. I'm going to go for DPREC. And it automatically loads the game for you. Now, I've no idea what this game is, but I'm randomly going to do what it's asking. Input initial value. I'm going to just put 1. Enter. Like I say, no idea what this is. So let's check something else out. Now, ZX81 has a very famous game called 3D Monster Maze. If I just go to network again, ZX81 online browser, I'm going to go to the hashtag here, which obviously represents numbers. Now, I'm assuming 3D Maze could possibly be the game I'm talking about. If I left click on it, so this isn't actually the game I was looking for, but you get the idea. So ZX81 browser and Specky browser pretty much work the same way. You're also going to check out Amstrad CPC. So obviously Amstrad CPC is a separate computer outside of ZX Spectrum. So if I just grab from itch.io again, another game, and we're going to select randomly this game just here, Sorcerer's Amstrad CPC. If I download this, now I'm going to select for this the .dsk. That's a disk image for Amstrad. So what we're going to do is just go back to the emulator itself, and we're going to switch over the machine to an Amstrad model. And since this is a disk, I'm going to select the CPC 6128 to load this with. And again, just left click, smart load, OK. And if I just come out of here, I've obviously got to navigate to where my SourceSource game is located, so on my desktop again. So if I just come out, desktop, and the name of my game is SourceSource, here it is, left click. And from here, I'm going to just type in cat. Then I'm going to type in run, quote mark, and then the name of the game, which is Sorcerer. And then enter. And again, just like the ZX Spectrum game, if you don't fancy doing all that, then you just simply drag your Amstrad game into the emulator. And then it's pretty much ready for that loads command again. So cat, and this gets very annoying, but we're going to type in cat. Run, and then the name of the game. And that's it for today's ZEsarUX setup guide. So like I said at the start of the video, there's a lot to this emulator, and it really is a fantastic piece of kit. It's by far my favourite ZX Spectrum emulator, and like I said during the setup guide, it's probably your easiest way into ZX Spectrum next gaming rather than doing the C-Spec setup guide, which I covered a while back. We also got the ability in this emulator to play Amstrad games, Jupiter Ace games, pretty much all those microcomputers of the 80s, which have been long forgotten about. It's just really awesome, and I really recommend this one. I also covered Fuse and Spectaculator on my channel, so if you're interested in learning about those two standalone ZX Spectrum emulators, check those out in my micro emulation playlist. Also, be sure to hit notifications, subscribe and like if you liked the video today so you don't miss upcoming retro emulation content. Also helps out my channel a great deal. Also join me on social media. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and TikTok. And from time to time I do ask for small little donations, being it £1 or $1 or whatever currency you're in. Just helps my channel, and it just compensates for all the hard work I put into some of these videos for you. Helps my channel expand later on. Until next time, stay retro.